Hi, welcome back to another episode of Art World Confessions. So, on the last episode of Art World Confessions, after I looked at the episode myself, I realized that I said something that was not 100% correct. And that was basically saying that some artists in our society who are from a well off background aren't doing as good work as some other artists with more challenges. So, I just wanted to correct that today and make it clear that I don't know everything. That's why this is called Art World Confessions and not everything you need to know about art. So after I realized my mistake, I went to Google and I tried out their Gemini, their AI information searching service. So Gemini came up with a list when I asked to give me some artists in Western art history who were born into wealthy families. The list was all male, all Western, mostly European white males. I'm not going to go into the upside and the downsides of AI, but obviously, this is a problem. Of the list that Gemini gave me, I would say the last three, Manet, Cézanne, and Rembrandt, they seem to be doing a little better than just well off. The Art Gorgeous also had a great article called Cha-Ching, Artists from Wealthy Families. I'll put all of these links to the article below in the description, so look there if you want to read more on this topic. Some of my own favorites from Western art history, like Theodore Géricault, he was born into a wealthy family. Jacques-Louis David, he was also born into a wealthy family. It says here from my search that he was born in Paris in 1748 to a rich family and soon found his talent in art nurtured at the highest levels. So, these guys, we all know. Some of us know their background. Some of us have forgotten what we learned, like myself. And I think what we get out of this investigation of which artists came from wealthy backgrounds is, again, that art history is based on the Western art history that we learned is very male, is very white male centered. So of the few women that I found from this search, I remembered a few from my own studies back in the day. And of course, Artemisia Gentileschi came to mind. And she wasn't born into a wealthy family per se, but she was born into a family of artists. And thankfully, some of her works have survived. Camille Claudel, she came to mind as well because of her relationship with Rodin. Very often her life has been overshadowed by this relationship. And if you ask me, just knowing how these dynamics in creative relationships go and the dynamics between male and female when they work in the same field, I'm 100% sure that he was not only inspired by her, but I would be sure that he ripped off some of her artwork as well and just slapped his name on it. You can, I don't think there's anyone out there to put my head on a block for this, but just knowing how these relationships work out between men and women, I'm 100% sure that what drove her freaking crazy and into the asylum was the fact that she had done all this work and had it pretty much stolen from under her nose. And he goes on to have many other lovers and to have all of this success and fame. Meanwhile, she's carted off to the crazy house. So from the articles that I read, again, they'll all be linked in the description. Claudel was born to a father working in finance and a mother who belonged to a long line of wealthy farmers. And she showed a lot of talent for sculpting since the age of 12. Most of these articles that I have are written by men, and again, it's a very male eye, a very male perspective, describing her work, describing her relationship, and describing what her impact on the art world was, at that time and even now. And then I had to ask myself this question. It doesn't necessarily mean that because you're from a wealthier background, you'll be a better artist. It doesn't mean that you're from a less wealthy background that you'll be a better artist. What does seem to stand out is the fact that if you are given the time and the space, the tools and the education, you can become an artist. And it's safe to say that if you're struggling to pay bills and you have to run to work every day to your job, you don't have the space, time, energy, and obviously the creativity to become some sort of artist. I think it was Gertrude Stein who said, it takes a lot of time doing absolutely nothing in order to become a genius. And in order to do absolutely nothing, you really can't have a 9-to-5 job. One of the articles also pointed out artists from other areas besides the visual arts who also came from wealthy backgrounds. And in this article, it said in total, women are 18% more likely than men to work in the arts. And for myself, if you think about creativity, if you think of the muses, if you think of the divine feminine, if you think of creator energy, you can imagine that this is the most powerful energy in existence, the ability to create. So just judging from the fact that women create children, I mean, without us, there would be nothing on earth right now, no people, that's for sure. I remember one of my exes saying to me once, "Why is it when you speak, you sound like the oracle?" And I thought to myself, well, I suppose it's because I have something inside of me which, when it wants to be said, it sounds like it's from a space of authority. And in some sense, it is from a space of authority, the not knowingness that's out there. But also, it's just because, I am who I am. That same article went on to say, however, there are still less non-whites in the arts, especially in the visual arts and literature, than in other occupations. And again, if we go back to having the freedom, the space, the time to engage in art, then you understand why, if you have to go to work all the time, if you're in a lower economic status, which at least in America, that happens to be a certain demographic more likely than not, even though it's spread across the board. But just judging from the history of America, we know who has the time to work and who doesn't, who has the time to create art and who doesn't. And these are some notes I took, which I'll just read because I can't remember everything that I wrote. But it basically says that you go to school and you learn economics, you go to school, you learn law. All of these things you learn in order to know how to navigate what I call the matrix, this overlay that we have in society, in so-called civilization, for us to all get along and to work within, the capitalist system. So you become an artist if you want to be subversive. You become an artist if you want to reimagine the world, if you want to recreate the world or create a new world, not simply to make work that fits in and doesn't push the narrative of art history and the narrative of the world forward. You don't become an artist if you simply want to make work that makes the whole system continue as it is, without questioning it, without contributing something that shakes things up and moves the conversation forward. I remember as well, back in the day, another art dealer, a gallerist, I don't think he's around anymore, actually, I have to look, I won't mention his name, but I sat down with him because I was showing him one artist who I was interested in, and he said to me, Nicollette, there are lots of good artists in the world, and what makes the difference between a good artist and a great artist is one who is willing to push the story of art history forward. If they're not adding something to the story of art history, then they're as good as any other artist. So I think that's something for us to consider, whether you're from a wealthy background or not. It's like, is your work pushing the story of art history forward? What are you contributing to the art historical canon? What are you adding to the earth that makes it different from what it was yesterday, last year, last 100 years? I think that's what's important today. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing, hitting the bell notification so you know when I upload a new episode of Art World Confessions. Have a great week.